Hi, my name is Dr. Raja Adnan Ahmed, and I'm a psychiatrist and I work in UK. This video is specifically for the international medical graduates on how to write your supporting information on a personal statement on an NHS job application form. So I get a lot of international medical graduates contacting me saying that they have been applying for jobs, they've applied for 50 jobs, 100 jobs. Sometimes people say I've applied for 200 and 300 jobs, but I'm not getting any response. Where am I going wrong? What am I doing wrong? Some people will say to me that I also have a lot of experience as well, but still my application is not catching the eye of the shortlisting consultants. Where am I going wrong? So I also ask people, when you're applying, are you actually looking into the job description and person specification? Are you trying to change your application form accordingly, or are you sending the same form to all the job application you're going for? Most of the time, IMGs will say, just they have made a form, they have written it once, and they just sort of try to send the same form over and over again to different jobs. Sometimes they are junior doctors, they're applying for all specialties, but they're just sending one form everywhere. So, sending number of forms, sending loads of form, this is one way to apply for jobs. Obviously, you're trying to see if by sending a maximum number of form, somewhere some consultant will actually shortlist you and you will have an interview. Another way to look at that is to improve the quality of your application. And when I say improve the quality application, you can do several things, but one more important thing is to look at your supporting information or personal statement. Because when a hospital or a consultant or HR team is getting loads of application, imagine for a job advert, they're getting 80 to 100 applications. They have to go through them, see through them, and see which one they can shortlist, which candidates are suitable and which candidates are not suitable. Around that time, they are basically looking to compare your application with the person specification, because whenever there is a job advert, they have already told you that this is the ideal candidate we are looking for, and then try and compare the person specification with your job application. So if you have written a job application, especially your personal statement or your supporting information in a way that it is reflecting the person's specification of the job, you are more likely to catch the eye, you're more likely to catch the attention of a person who is shortlisting you. But whenever I have given this advice to the junior doctors that you need to tailor your application according to the job description and person specification, they are always come back to me, almost always come back to me that, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. What does tailoring mean? What do you want me to write on the application? So in this video, I am going to show you an example of a job advert, which is a random job advert I have pulled through the internet. And then I've written some slides and also a kind of a person statement, which is basically I try to see what are the things I can pull through from the job description and person specification, and then I can apply that to the personal statement I'm trying to write. So let me take you through this and see this might be helpful. You might get some ideas, you might get some understanding of what is expected and how to write your personal statement. So first, I'd like to just share some slides with you, and then we will find the job advert from the NHS job website, and then I'll show you the job description and how to write about it. So this presentation, just a few slides I've made around how to tailor your NHS job application, just a few do's and don'ts. As I said, tailor according to the job description person specification, which you have mentioned a few times. But it's also about tailoring to your own strengths as well. You have to also think about what are the strengths that you can highlight. What are the things that are more unique about you, which the other IMGs of the same stage may not have? Highlighting that would be very important, because a lot of people are applying for the jobs and they may have similar skills, but if you have some skills which you think is over and above other doctors, then you need to highlight them, and I will give some examples when we will talk about how to write it. Then your individual personality and skills should shine in the statement as well, because if they can see you as an individual, then they're more likely to shortlist you. Then they're more likely to understand that you are the right person for their job. Because if you're sending generic application that doesn't include your personal attribute, that doesn't show them about your personality, it might just well be that the statements may have been written by chat GPT or some other website or somebody random, but individually shining personality that can come through an application, that it can be done. And I'll show you some example for that. Then also I like to say that you need to be honest, because one thing we need to understand that our responsibility to be honest as a doctor, and if they found you to be not honest, they can actually report you to GMC as well. But more than that, I would like to say that um, honesty is about writing the skills you do have, and don't make claims you about things you can't do, because the people who are actually looking through your application, and also people who will shortlist you or interview you, they are very senior doctors. You cannot fool them. People who have 10, 20 years of experience in that field, you cannot fool them by making statements on your CV, or making some statements in the interview, because they are eventually going to caught you that you these statements and these skills you said you had were wrong. And don't do not write negative statements about yourself. I have seen a lot of NHS job application form where people write so much negative things about themselves. Like they start highlighting things like, I don't have NHS experience, I have so much gap, I can't do this, I haven't done ALS yet, I am thinking about doing MRCP, but I haven't done it yet. So these things may also be might they are true, but you don't need to highlight them, because the person who is reading the personal statement, they need to see the good things about you. If you put too many negative statements, if you start putting negative statements, this will actually tell them that you might not be the right candidate. Then some people end up writing overly romantic statements. I have seen people writing things like, I have dreamed to work for NHS. I have, since I was a child, I've always think about UK. One in application, somebody wrote that, I love reading Harry Potter books, and I imagine myself going through the UK's country lanes, and this is my dream to actually do that. I mean, it is good to share some of your experiences about UK, share your passion about UK, the NHS, and all that. But you need to write it in a more thorough way. It's not just making claims that you love this. This is amazing, and it is amazing, and it will be a great honor to work for that. Those statements might not mean anything to person who's shortlisting you, because obviously everybody is applying for a job, is interested in working in NHS, is interested in working in that particular role. So these statements might waste a lot of your time, may waste a lot of your words on the personal statement, but may not make any sense. And then, as I said already, making claims without evidence, and then that is something that you can be caught doing that. And then if you're caught, there have been cases in UK when people have claimed they have done research, and they haven't actually done that research, and the person who were actually interviewing or shortlisting them went to search for that research and find out that that was a fake research, and then actually ended up reporting them to GMC. So those sort of things can happen. So you need to be very, very careful that don't make claims about things you haven't done. So in terms of writing a personal statement, now the next slide, I will show you the job which I pulled through the NHS jobs. But when you're writing a personal statement, remember these 4 paragraphs. I'm not claiming I'm an expert of writing personal statements, but writing the personal statements in 3 or 4 paragraphs, when it is not too rich, but just to the point. And the 4 paragraphs in your mind, you don't need to give them headings, but in your mind, you can divide them in introduction, your clinical experience, your other skills, and your personal attributes. By doing that, you can give them a good picture of yourself, that who you really are, why you're applying for this job, what are your skills, how would you fit in this role. Now, remember, the personal statement should be written in a way that if I don't know you as a doctor at all, if I haven't seen your CV, if I haven't seen your form, I can read those 4 paragraphs about you and know that you are the right person to shortlist, and know that you are the right person who has all the skills required, or who meets the person's specification or the job criteria. So you need to be written in that way, imagining that this is the only thing a person is reading, and this is the only thing they're comparing with the job role. So can you write it good enough to show them your skill, and so much so that they shortlist you? We'll give you some examples now. So this is a job advert I've pulled through the NHS jobs website, and this I am imagining myself right now as a junior doctor who's just done internship, doesn't have so much experience. After internship, maybe 1 or 2 more years of more experience, but not more than that. So was looking for a clinical fellow or junior clinical fellow post, basically an SHO post, a non-training grade junior doctor post. So I pulled this random job from the NHS jobs website, clinical fellow in gastroenterology. You can see the closing date and all that. So they have given some summary. Whenever they are advertising the job, they give you some summary. So in this, they have talking about the main responsibilities. So they're saying, on Monday you'll be doing ward round. Then this is the name of the hospital. You can see Tuesday and another ward round. Then you're attending an MDT, then ward round. You can attend endoscopy. So, gastroenterology job, they've written something about their trust, that what this trust is about, what is the meaning, these slogans. Then they have written some job description as well, that what is the job description of this individual who they're trying to appoint. Then there's a person specification section here. And then there's another document I'll show you. So in this is a very basic person specification. Then they're looking for essentially somebody who has MBBS. Obviously, if you're a doctor at GMC registration, you will have MBBS on equivalent. And then they will say if you have additional qualification, but you don't need to have this. You just need to have essential to be shortlisted. Then they'll talk about the experience, what sort of things they're looking for. Then they talk about some of the skills. And the rest of the advert is quite simple, and you will find that in things in every advert. But the most important thing here, if you're applying for this job, you go to the supporting documents portion, and almost all NHS jobs will have something called a job description or person specification attached. Then you click that, it will open a document, and I'll show you this document. Now, this is the document that will open. Now, this is hospital's name, the health board's name. And then this is a job description, clinical fellow in gastroenterology. They've written a lot about the health board here, the values and behaviors. Now, this values and behavior is the important thing. It will come when I talked about the personal statement, the fourth paragraph, when I talked about the personal attributes you're talking about. It is good to actually read these and see if you can fit them in your job application. Now, every trust will have different values and behaviors. They may have different terms. These terms are normally generic, the kind of things which you will expect a doctor to do anyway, the kind of thing GMC expects us in good medical practice. Those simple things, that you need to be kind and caring, you need to be respectful, you need to be trustworthy and have integrity. Then you need to have the ability to take personal responsibility of what you're doing. Then you come down, they have written quite a lot about the hospital, the thing we're looking for. Now, this is the timetable they're giving you, and it can very clearly show you that you're basically doing quite a lot of ward work there, some clinics, outpatient clinic as well, some MDT, quite a lot of ward rounds and ward work. So this is expected of a junior doctor normally anyway. The thing we are looking for is this person specification. Now, you have to imagine if you are writing a personal statement. I've said this already. Personal statement or supporting information, that the person who is about to shortlist you, the person who is reading your statement, has this in their hand. And if you are taking these boxes, then you will be able to, your form will actually shine in front of them. Your chances of getting shortlisted will increase. So now look at these qualities they're looking for. Qualifications is very clear that you need to have MBBS, full GMC registration, license to practice. Previous experience, they're expecting to have clinical experience, evidence of participation in research and clinical governance, assessment of emergencies, quite basic things. Then skills and knowledge, demonstrate skills and knowledge, spoken English is good, up to date with current medical practice, ability to take appropriate clinical choices, research interest relevant, especially teaching experience. So other than the clinical experience, they have also written the person should have some degree of academic experience. When we talk about academic experience, it is normally teaching experience and research experience. So I'll show you, you don't have to have research on your CV. There are other ways to show that you're interested in research as well. Then some attitudes that you have, these are some of the skills they normally talk about. Personal qualities they talk about. So as I said, if you are dividing your personal statement in 4 sections, remember the 4 sections I talked about: the introduction, your introduction in the first paragraph; second paragraph, your clinical skills; third paragraph, the other skills, which may include the research and academic skills, team working skills, and all that. And the fourth paragraph, the personal attributes, which you can link to the trust values as well. So by doing that, you will be able to show them that you are actually meeting these criteria. So let me show you an example of a personal statement which I have written based on this, assuming that I'm a junior doctor, what sort of things I might be able to put in my personal statement. So this is the example of a personal statement I've written, and this is based on the job description and the the personal attributes they are looking for in their ideal candidate. So as I said, the first paragraph, introduction. Again, you don't need to put a heading there, but in your mind, you're imagining that you're trying to introduce yourself. I've seen people writing like big stories here that I am a motivated, highly motivated individual with great skills, and I'm a great communicator. I'm amazing in this and that. But whenever you're making claims, imagine, just think about, how can you evidence those claims? Why are you actually saying you have those skills? What is the evidence for that? But as an introduction, you need to be very concise and clear that who you are, why you're applying for this job. So here you are just saying, I have graduated in MBBS in 2019, attained full GMC registration with license to practice. Now I'm saying this, some people will say, why am I telling them about my graduation and the license to practice, when if they read my form, I've written this already up there? Because I can tell you that, in some jobs, half of the forms they're getting are from people who do not have GMC registration. They're just sitting outside in other countries. They're trying to apply for jobs in UK, and they're just sending random forms and then hoping then somebody will employ them and give them the sponsorship for GMC. So if you want to highlight this fact here, this is good, because this is one of the things they have written in their personal statement here as well. See, the qualification, MBBS equivalent, GMC registration. So you're basically writing the same thing here, that you have these things. I meet all the essential and most criteria for the job advertised in clinical fellow in gastroenterology, and I'm confident I have the relevant clinical expertise and experience required to undertake this role. So this is a confident statement you're making, no negative statements here, very confidently saying that, I feel that I meet the criteria and I'm able to do this job. Now here, specifically, I've written the clinical fellow in gastroenterology. Again, you can only write this if you are specifically writing this for this job. What people might end up doing is will write this once and then start sending the same form to others, and then other job might be, get a clinical fellow in respiratory medicine, and then the person, if they read this and say, well, actually this person actually haven't read the job description. So by doing this, you're actually showing them that you actually have read the job description. This is not a generic statement you're making for every job. You've actually read the job role, and then what are you applying for. Now, again, some of the other statements you can make, and I'm not saying that this will fit for all IMGs, but if it does fit you, it's good to highlight that. Let's say, for example, if you've done a clinical attachment, you need to show this initially here. I have exposure to the NHS via clinical attachment, which has helped me understand the routines, duties of junior doctors, will help me with my clinical role. So again, you are just telling them that you just don't have GMC registration and MBBS, but you also have some degree of clinical exposure and NHS. If you don't have that, don't worry about it. There are other ways to show them that you can fit in the job, which will come in the next paragraph. I'll show you. Another thing to highlight, if you don't have any significant clinical gaps, see little bit of clinical gaps everybody have in their clinical practice. People take time off, people go in between jobs, there are sometimes gaps, sometimes people are studying for exams, sometimes there are family reasons for the gap. But if you don't have any significant clinical gap, like years and years of gaps, it's good to actually highlight that you have been clinically active for X number of years. Say, for example, as a junior doctor, after internship, you got another job and working in a hospital. Say that I have been clinically active for the past 3 years, 4 years. So by doing that, you're actually highlighting that your clinical skills are recent. If you don't have that, you can you don't need to write that. But I just wanted to say that this is something important to highlight right at the introduction. Another important thing to highlight here is that I'm able to start this job without any delays, which is basically you're telling them that I'm ready to take this job as soon as you offer me. Because a lot of the times when these non-training jobs are advertised, there are gaps in the rota. The hospital is actively looking for somebody because there is a gap. They want to employ somebody quickly so they can take up the role as soon as possible. By doing that, you're telling them that it's not that if you offer me or shortlist me, I'll say to you, well, actually, I'll start. I can't come right now. Give me another year. Give me 6 months and I'll come. But I'm actually ready to take this job. If you are a UK resident or on a visa from your partner, it is again important thing to highlight, because in that case, the hospital would know that you do not require tier 2 sponsorship. If you do, it's not that this is complete red flag. I'm not saying that, but if this is an advantage, as I said, you need to think what are the advantages. If you're one of those doctors who are already in UK because of your partner, your husband, your wife, therefore you don't have any restrictions to work in UK and you do not require sponsorship, tier 2 sponsorship, write it down in the first paragraph, because this is something they need to know, because then they would know that if they employ you, you can actually start the next week and then the next 2-3 weeks whenever your checks are done and all that. Now, another thing, important thing they've mentioned in the person specification was demonstration the skills of written English communication, all that things. They're basically saying that English should be good enough. I mean, a lot of people will just write that I have a score of good scores in IELTS and OET. But if you say, for example, if you're coming from India or Pakistan, your undergraduate education normally is done in English anyway. So you can write it in a way that gives a bit more confidence to the person who's reading, that not just you have scored well on IELTS or OET, or the GMC is satisfied with your English language skill, but actually your undergraduate education and postgrad training has been in English. We know we don't talk to the patients in English in our home countries, but because we've been reading and we've been studying in English, our communication with our colleagues is often in English. The diagnosis, the clinical terms, the clinical history, the clinical books we have been reading, that has all been English. Highlighting that is important. It will give a bit more confidence to the person who's reading that your English is not bad and that you are used to English. I'm saying this because there are countries in the world where undergraduate education is not in English. So, for example, if you're coming from Europe, a candidate is coming from Europe, their undergraduate education might be in a different language. People go to Russia or China to train and sort of read about undergraduate education. That English might not be their main academic language. So highlighting that if this is something you have is good, because it is again according to the person specification, they were asking for specifically for your English language skills. So now, as I said, the first paragraph is your introduction. I haven't written too much about it. I'm just highlighting the things which they like to read. That you have full GMC registration, you have skills, you are able to take this job as soon as it is offered to you. If there's any visa restriction, if there is no visa restriction, again, I said, don't write negative statement. Don't write here that, I would need, and I've seen these people writing this, I would need tier 2 sponsorship, which will take 3 months, or 4 months. That will be a negative statement. So don't do that. Now, the next paragraph is the clinical experience. I think this is a very important paragraph, because this is where you are showing them that you are actually ready to take up this job. A person reading this should have the confidence that if I employ you tomorrow, you can come to my ward, and with some supervision, you will be able to do this job. Now, clinical experience exposure, if you have NHS exposure, good, well enough. If you don't, there are things to write. Like, for example, this first paragraph written here. My internship, which is called Foundation Training in UK, experience was in a busy university hospital where I learned to work under pressure, prioritize, and provide good clinical care. Now, again, these are attributes which they expect in a doctor, that they can work under pressure, they can prioritize good clinical care. So you've mentioned that in your example or in your sentence. Next thing written here, our hospital manages clinical care on similar clinical guidelines as NICE and NHS, and I've gained experience under UK and US trained consultant. Therefore, I'm confident and I'll be able to fit in this job relatively easily. Now, as I said, you haven't got NHS experience, you haven't done clinical attachment, but still you're showing them that, your NHS is not completely alien to you. Your seniors have been trained in NHS, you have worked under them, you're working in hospital, which is university hospital, where guidelines are applied, where the clinical care is given to the same standards which is expected in the West. So you have some understanding, you have some knowledge of how things work. So again, it gives a bit more confidence to the person who's reading it. Now, as I said, this is a gastroenterology job. So gastroenterology is a branch of medicine. So you're highlighting here your medical experience, which may just be that you have done internship and some other things. Now, here I've written, my experience in medicine include assessment and treatment of common and wide variety of medical condition. I can confidently manage routine ward duties of a junior doctor, which includes clerking patients, examination, investigation, ward round, discharge summaries. I gain expertise in identifying and giving treatment to medical emergencies and escalating the case when required. So, you see now, again, if you go back to the job description, the timetable they've given you, as I said, is mostly ward duties. So here you are actually identifying that what is the duty or a junior doctor of a medical SHO on the ward, and you are telling them that you have actually done this already through your internship or through your experience in medicine. So again, the person reading this will have a bit more confidence that this guy know what their duties are, and they're telling me that they have already done it, although they may have done it in another country, but they have done it. Now again, in this, if this is a medical job, I've written here about the courses. If you have done any courses, conferences, any extra experience, you can write that here. Important to highlight that. So here I've written, I've completed an advanced life support course, which I have, you can say if you've done it from UK, if you've done from your home country, wherever you've done it from. I've just given an example here. You may have not done it, then you don't need to say that I haven't done ALS. Don't make negative statements about yourself. Again, just wanted to say that again. But whenever you're talking about a course or a conference or a skill, you need to actually write a bit more about it. So here I've written that I've taken an active role and responsibility with the local research station team, which helps me in the application of my knowledge to clinical practice. I've also gained experience of teamwork and improved my confidence to make decision under pressure. So it's not just about that you've just told them that you've done ALS, but you have also telling them that how you're using that skill. So and or not just got a certificate, but actually you are applying that knowledge to the day-to-day work in the hospital. You have been a part of a local research team where you have applied that knowledge to the emergency condition, the crash calls which you receive, and you have been part of the team giving the resuscitation to the patients. So it's not just that you've done the course, you have also got the practical experience of application of that. So, those things are important to highlight. And you will see a lot of IMGs will just think that if I can tick a box, if I can just write a line there, I've got ALS, that's the end of it. No, I think you can write a bit more about that. And this applies to other courses as well, which you may have done. This may apply to other rotations. If you have done a rotation in gastroenterology, you can write a bit more about what have you learned from that rotation. If you have done medical on call, you can write a bit more about that what have you learned from those medical on calls. So, giving them an example or telling them what you have done followed by what skills have you developed from it. And when you say what skills have you developed from it, you can pull those skills out from the person specification, which they have already said, which they said they are looking for in you. So now we come to this another one. I've written this. So for example, if you, after your internship or whatever you've done in your home country, your house job, you're actually working on a training scheme. Now this is again important to highlight here, that if you are in a training scheme, this is an advantage. So you have to highlight your most important skills. Like I've written here, I'm currently working in a fellowship training scale, FCPS or MD, whatever, if you're from India or Pakistan, in my home country, which is a structured training scheme with a variety of clinical rotation and wide variety of clinical exposure, including inpatient, outpatient, emergency setting. And I've gained experience working in gastroenterology and learned this. So in example, if this is a job for gastroenterology, if you've done a rotation in gastroenterology, it's good to mention it here, because then the person shortlisting will have another click in their head that this guy has got, a guy or girl has got gastroenterology experience as well. So it is important to mention that if you're already in training scheme, because that gives you a bit of edge over the people who are actually not in training. So we know that when you're in a training scheme, you have certain obligation, you're actively learning, you have supervision, you're placed in a hospital which is equipped with the training needs of the training junior doctor. So you're doing a bit more than a person who's doing a non-training job. So highlighting that and what have you learned is important again. Now we'll move to the next paragraph, which is the other skills. As I said, first paragraph, your introduction. Second paragraph, your clinical skills, relating that to the job description. Third paragraph here are other skills. Now, what are the other skills they have mentioned? So they have very clearly mentioned here in the job description, person specification, research interest, teaching experience, and all those things. You can pick up on these things, on these points of what are they looking for, and then mention in these other skills. Like for example, the first thing, if you have you got any distinction, any medals, any achievements in your medical school or after that, mention in that. It's important to mention. The way I've mentioned here, I have achieved multiple distinction during my medical university, which highlights my ability to work hard and satisfy academic requirements beyond an average student, and I like to strive for excellence. So you're just telling them, not telling them that you got the awards or whatever you got, but you're telling them that this is an evidence that you are good academically, and then you try to push yourself beyond an average student, and you like to try for excellence, because this is something, a trend, a personality trait which you can carry to the rest of your career. Now, and another thing, academic, I've written here, alongside my clinical duties, I have been actively participating in academic and research activities. I believe in continuous professional development, and the academic activities have helped to improve my knowledge base, alongside giving me some excellent opportunities to explore my leadership and team working skills. So, as I said, again, it's not just about that you have been participating in research activities or teaching activities, but actually you're talking about the skills you have learned from that. This is what they want to read. And the skills, what are the skills they're looking for? You can read that through the job description. So I'm not saying every junior doctor will have research skills. If you don't have it, there's another way of writing that as well. But say, for example, if you have done research, so I've written some examples here. I have done case reports, literature reviews, and poster presentations at national conferences. I have developed the ability to critically appraise research, and it has improved my approach to clinical challenges. My critical thinking styles help me to challenge assumption and search for more recent advances in research. So if you've done a research, publication, literature review, things like that, poster presentation, right there, definitely highlight that. But if you haven't done, all doctors can actually do as minimum, they can understand how to critically appraise research. This is something they can learn very easily. And this critical appraisal of research is actually part of medical training in UK. And from the medical school, they do that. And also when you're training in medicine and other subspecialties, you will also do that. So although you're saying that you haven't done research, but you are able to critically appraise, and this has given you some skills of critical thinking, challenging assumption, looking for more recent research and advances. Then other skills I've written here, just an example, research experiences also helped me to develop academic writing style, which has improved my written communication skills. So academic writing style is something that you learn through research, how to evidence, how to write things. And that does help to improve your communication skills as well. So you're highlighting that. So you've learned a skill and how this has helped you to develop as a doctor. The second sentence, sorry. Another thing, another statement about research, I've been keeping my knowledge up to date by attending academic conferencing and participating in poster presentation. Through academic activities, I've gained knowledge of developing network, collaborating, and establishing a team. So see, two different sentences. First one, you're saying that what have you been doing? Attending conferences, participating in poster presentation, research, whatever you've been doing. Second one, that what has this academic activity given you as a skill? The knowledge to develop networks, collaboration, and establishing a team. So teamwork, developing networks, communication skills. So you have a lot of skills that come with it. So when you're writing these things, you need to understand that you cannot just claim skills. You cannot just start writing things like, I have excellent communication skills, I have excellent team working, I'm excellent, I can lead a team, I can do this, I can do that. But if you're writing in a way that what have you done first, and then say that what have you learned, and in that learning you can mention those skills, it will give the person who's reading a bit more confidence that your examples are actually more practical. Now this statement I've again written as an example of teaching skills. Now here I'm writing that I volunteer for teaching activities and my teaching experiences help to improve my academic knowledge and communication skills. My teaching experience include both lecture style and practical demonstration of clinical skills. Teaching gave me ability to describe common medical condition in simpler terms, which has helped my communication and rapport with patient. Again, now this statement, you can notice a few things. So, I mean, the reason I wrote this because I've given this advice to a lot of junior doctors. So here you're saying that you volunteer for teaching activities, which means that you are taking an initiative rather than somebody asking you to teach. And some people have written that in my medical university or in my ward, some medical student come and I teach them. So you're just saying that you're actually not really interested in teaching. It's just a part of your role that some medical students are just attached to you, and you just show them here and there a few things. No, you need to show a bit more passion. If you're writing something like this, you need to show a bit more passion and the skills that you have developing from it. So here I've written volunteer for teaching activity, which is showing that I have actually taken the initiative because I am interested in teaching. And teaching experiences help me to improve my communication skills. So then I've given an example of what I've been doing in teaching in very simple one line, that I have experience of lecture style and also practical demonstrations bedside. Then again, I'm telling them that what skills I have developed. Teaching has given me ability to describe common medical conditions, simpler terms, which has helped my communication and rapport with the patients. So the skills I've learned from teaching students is helping me in my clinical abilities and my communication skills and my rapport with the patient. This is just an example I'm giving you because obviously every individual, I don't want you to copy and paste this and then say that, I didn't get shortlisted, I follow your advice. I'm just giving you an example of what sort of things they're looking for when they are actually looking for these applications. You see, in this other skill part, I've talked about research and teaching, which is the same thing. If you go back here to the person specification, you can see in skills and knowledge, they have specifically mentioned the research interest and to relevant, especially in teaching experience. So if you've done an audit, you see that they put an audit here as well. If you've done an audit, that will be well and good. You can mention that. If you have done other skills, if you've got other skills, you can certainly mention that. They will be useful as well. Now, coming back to the personal statement again. Now, the fourth paragraph, I said you need to write some personal attributes here. I've given a very simple example here. So we're applying for this job for Cardiff and Wales Trust, and they actually in the job description, you go up, you will find they have given you what are the trust values. Sometimes the trust values are not given on job description, but if you know the trust name when you're applying, you can always go to their website. All their website will have their values written there. Values, as I said, again, they are quite common values which expected to all of us, even as a human being, expected to have, or being a doctor expected to have. The GMC, good medical practice, will have the same values. So Cardiff and Vale Health Board, according to this, has these 4 values: that the person needs to be kind and caring, they need to be respectful, they need to have trust and integrity, they need to be ability to take personal responsibility. And they've given some examples as well. I think this is a very good one, that they have actually given an example of what they're looking for in these values, and how that could be applied to a doctor or a junior doctor they're looking for. But other trusts may just give you values in terms of just 4 values or 2 or 3 values, or you just might find them on their website, might not have more information about it. So I've taken these values and I've written my personal attributes here. Same values here: kind, caring, respectful, trust, integrity, personal responsibility. Now, again, no need to put headings here, no need to sort of write it like this. Your statement can start from where my wordings are starting. I've just written these headings to make it a bit easier for people who are watching this video. So now, let's look at this statement. My personal attributes include my ability to take responsibility for my work and my team, alongside my commitment to improving my skill and quality of the service. So you're not saying that your personal attributes already have these things. I have received good feedback from my patients, supervisors about my kind, caring, respectful approach towards my patients and colleagues. Now, see, here, there's another trick here. Now, a lot of people will say in this statement that I am a kind and a caring person, a respectful person. I am an excellent communicator and all that. So anybody can claim a lot of things about themselves. But then you ask the person who's reading that would actually have this thing in their mind. They might raise a question that how do you know you're all these things? If you're writing it in a way that this was actually the feedback given to you, then it appears a bit more practical. Like here, I'm saying that I've received good feedback from my patients and my supervisors about my kind, caring, respectful approach towards my patients and colleagues. So see, the feedback is coming from somewhere else. So these skills is something that you actually reflected on. So the next statement I've written: reflecting on my career so far, I believe an important skill for doctor is to develop trust within the team and with the patient by maintaining the principles of honesty and integrity. This integrity, you can see, is a trust value. So I'm bringing that in as well. I feel my personality and behavior reflects the essence of trust values of the Cardiff and Vale University Health Board, and this will help me settle into this job relatively easily. So now here you're just saying to them that, if somebody is reading this, they would know that this personal statement or has been written by somebody who's actually bothered to read the job description and has bothered to read a bit more about the trust. So then they would know that you are more interested in the job, you're applying more seriously. So it will click something in the head that this person might be the person I might need to shortlist. Then, in this personal attributes, you can apply things like examples, but don't write too many examples, short examples, reflecting on the trust values in yourself. Then you can also write something about that. Why are you actually applying for this job? So as I said, there are 2 aspects to this, that you're telling that if you employ me, you will gain all the skills I have and I will be able to fit in your team relatively easily. I have all the skills, all the important skills you're looking for a junior doctor. But then also you can write something about that, how this job can help you as an individual. So I've written there, here's a very simple statement: this job will play an important role in my career progression by giving me a platform to improve my skills and learn from the multidisciplinary team. But you can write things like, this job will give me an opportunity to learn a bit more about medicine, and I like to apply for IMT training in the future. I am aiming to become a gastroenterologist, or I'm aiming to become a general physician. Things like, your career plans and how does it actually fit in your career plan. So if you're writing that, then the person who's shortlisting you will be a little bit more confident that you're serious about this job. This job is actually playing a role in your career progression. This job is actually something that you are interested in. So you can show them certain things by your personal statements, writing them in a way that it is tailored to that particular job. Again, when you have done all of this, I've just given you some sentences which will be individual. Every individual will find it different and write it differently. But once you've created a personal statement for this particular job, you can see that will not be 100% acceptable or applicable to another job. So if you're going to apply for another job, you will have to open that job advert and look through what they're looking for. Now, this is a time consuming exercise. I understand that, but it is better than sending random forms, same forms, generic form everywhere. Because if your generic forms are not catching the attention of a shortlisting consultant, if you're not getting shortlisting, if you're not getting interview calls after sending 100 applications, 200 applications, then if you keep sending them, you're just trying your luck, like you're gambling that it might work. But if you start to work on your personal statement and your form, your chances of getting shortlisted will increase. In the meantime, there are certain things I haven't mentioned here, but if you have done, for example, the introduction, if you've done uh, fellowship exam from your home country, even a part of fellowship exam, you can mention that here. If you've done MRCP1, you can mention that here. If you've done ALS, you can mention that here. So in the introduction, try and bring out the most important skills you have. And if you can match that with the person specification, the essential criteria, that will actually satisfy the person who's reading this, that this person is actually good enough to be considered for this job. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope this was a useful exercise, and I hope this will help to improve your application. But please do not try to copy paste this, because that will not look real. I have just made this up from my own mind. Uh, but if you are an individual with individual skills and individual personality, that should be reflecting on your job application. So thank you again. I hope this was useful.